Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'da wa ba'd. Alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought us together on this 19th day of Sha'ban, 1442, on a Friday. And we are in the text under the second unit, third chapter, and it's also known as the second research, third objective. And today we're going to be looking at the continuation of Sheikh Mustafa Hamdu Ulayan's discussion of the middle path of Imam Ahmad in his viewpoint of Tasawwuf and the people of Tasawwuf, known as the Sufiya. So as is normal, the quote, close quote system is in effect, and we will be looking at the statements, and where there's clarification needed, inshallah, we endeavor to do so. So, in the clarification of the methodology of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal and Creed and Propagation, under the discussion, the Sheikh, he says, quote, وَقَدْ نَقَلَ أئمة المذهب ومنهم العلامة بن مفلح الحنبلي والعلامة البهوتي والعلامة السفريني عن إبراهيم بن عبد الله القلنسي قال قيل لأحمد بن حنبل. It was narrated by the Imams of the Madhab, among them including the scholar Ibn Muflih al-Hanbali, who died 762 Hijri, the scholar al-Bahuti, who died 1051 Hijri, the scholar Muhammad Ahmad al-Safarini, who died 1189 Hijri, all narrating from Ibrahim ibn Abdullah al-Qalansi, who said, it was mentioned to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, إن الصوفية يجلسون في المجالس بلا علم على سبيل التوكل قال العلم أجلسهم. Indeed, the Sufiya, they sit in their masjids, in the masajid, without knowledge, on the way of trusting in Allah and nothing more. He said, the knowledge sits with them. فقيل, then it was said to him, ليس مرادهم من الدنيا إلا كسرة خبز وخرق. And it was said, but their intent in the earthly life is nothing except taking a morsel of bread and a small stitch of fabric to tear off to use as clothing. فقال يعني Imam Ahmad Hanbal, so Imam Ahmad Hanbal said, لا أعلم على وجه الأرض أقواما أفضل منهم. Well, I know, Imam Ahmad said, on the face of the earth, no people more virtuous than them. قيل إنهم يستمعون ويتواجدون قال دعوهم يفرحون مع الله تعالى ساعة. Then it was said to the Imam, yes, but they listen to different things, and they also go into states of passion and wedged. To which the Imam said, leave them alone to take pleasure and joy with Allah for a while. قيل فمنهم من يخشى عليه ومنهم من يموت. Then it was said to him, well, among them are the one who is overwhelmed and faints. Then there is also the one among them who dies on account of going into these states. So the Imam said, فقال وبدا لهم من الله ما لم يكونوا يحتسبون. Surah Al-Zumar, al-Ayah 47. The Imam responded by quoting the ayah, and there appeared to them from Allah what they had not been counting on. Surah Al-Zumar, the 39th Surah, Ayah 47. And this is quoted in Al-Furu' Volume 5, page 238, Kashaf al-Qina' by Imam Bahuti, Volume 5, page 184, as well as Ghidha al-Albab, Sharh Manzumat al-Adab by Imam Muhammad Ahmad al-Safarini, Volume 1, page 120. وذكره الرحيباني في مطالب أولي النهى. And it was also mentioned by Mustafa Ruhaybani, who died 1243, in his Matalib ul Nuha, Volume 5, page 253. وَلَمْ يَضَعَفُوا هَذَا الْخَبْرِ. And none of them declared this narrative as weak. وَهُمْ أَئِمَّةُ هَذَا الشَّأْنِ. And these are the very imams of this methodology. In the main body of the text, I'd like to say, وقال علامة ابن تميم الحنبلي وهو أحد أصحاب الوجوه في المذهب. كان الإمام أحمد يعظم الصوفية ويكرمهم. The scholar Ibn Tamim al-Hanbali, who was one of the scholars of different narrations in the madhab, he said that the Imam Ahmad rahimahullah used to show deference to the Sufiya and he would honor them. As mentioned in Aqidat al-Imam Ahmad, al-Malhaqa, بطبقات الحنابلة, المجلد الثاني, الصفحة 79 و200. And this is quoted in the Creed of Imam Ahmad as taken from Tabaqat al-Hanabila, Volume 2, page 279. وكان الإمام قبل مصاحبته للصوفية يقول لولده عبد الله رحمه الله تعالى: يا ولدي عليك بالحديث وإياك ومجالسة هؤلاء الذين سموا أنفسهم صوفية فإنهم ربما كان أحدهم جاهلا بأحكام دينه. And the Imam, before having been in the presence of this classification of people called Sufiya, he would say to his son Abdullah, may Allah have mercy upon him, my son, stick to the hadith and beware of the gatherings of these people who name themselves Sufiya, because it may be that one of them is ignorant of the judgments of his religion. فلما صاحب أبا حمزة البغدادي الصوفي وعرف أحوال القوم أصبح يقول لولده. But when he attended a gathering in which Abu Hamza al-Baghdadi al-Sufi was present, and he came to know of the states of the people, he then said to his son, Ya waladi, my son, عليك بمجالسة هؤلاء القوم. You should go to the gatherings of these people. فإنهم زادوا علينا بكثرة العلم ومراقبة والخشية والزهد وعلو الهمة. Because they increase us in abundant knowledge, in being mindful that Allah is watching them, fear of Allah, abstention, and a high rank of aspiration for the hereafter. And this is taken from Tanwir al-Qulub, page 405, by the scholar Sheikh Amin al-Kurdi. Close quote. Now, this is an important point because it establishes and shows that the Imam was talking about two very different grades of Sufiya. That's why he said, don't sit, beware of sitting with those who name themselves as Sufiya. Because the Sufiya, like the Fuqaha and others, they're manifest. They don't call themselves this. So he said, watch out for those people. But then a bona fide Sufi, Abu Hamza al-Baghdadi al-Sufi, he sat with him and knew his state and understood his condition. He said, no, it's fine to sit with him, he said to his son Abdullah. So understand very clearly that there's an obvious distinction between these different categories of people. One, they name themselves that, and others are. They manifest and magnify and amplify what Tasawwuf is. In this era of liars who are always calling themselves Sufis and making claims for themselves, we take the advice from Imam Ahmad. We don't sit with any of them. These sophisticated and intricate bay'ah systems, things that Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahimahullah never had. That was not how Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahimahullah's methodology was passed. There was no elaborate bay'ah system and going to graves and giving bay'ah to sheikhs or jumping in unison in the air and just bid'ah and different khurafat like this. This was not from Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani or the great Sufiya. And this is why we avoid them judiciously in this age. Most of them are liars, and it's why many of these turuq have been swept away by Abdullah Sufyan al-Qudumi and other sheikhs besides. But in terms of people who truly are Sufiya, then indeed we would sit with these people, and you will find no greater Sufiya than the Fuqaha, and you'll find no greater Fuqaha than the Sufiya. If you find someone who claims that they're following someone of the path of the Sufiya and he's not among the people, scholars of fiqh, what have you, know that this person is a liar. The Sheikh Mustafa Hamdu Ulayan, he goes on to say, quote, وَقَدْ جَاءَ الثَّنَاءَ عَلَى الصُّوفِيَّةِ عَنْ كَثِيرٍ مِنْ أَئِمَّةِ الْإِسْلَامِ مِنْهُمْ الإمام النووي رحمه الله تعالى والإمام الشاطبي والإمام الحاكم صاحب المستدرك. And of those who gave ample praise of the Sufiya are many of the Imams of Islam, from among their ranks being people such as Imam al-Nawawi, may Allah have mercy upon him, who has a quote in Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyya, volume 1, page 151 of the same. Imam al-Shatibi, who makes reference to them in his book Al-I'tisam, volume 1, page 89. Imam al-Hakim, the author of Al-Mustadrak, the hadith collection, in which he makes reference to them, volume 3, page 18. Wal-Izz ibn Abd al-Salam, and Al-Izz ibn Abd al-Salam in his book Al-Qawaid, volume 2, page 179. Wal-Imam Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah, and the Imam Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah in his book Majmu' Fatawa, volume 14, page 355, in which he says at one place, فَمَنْ سَلَكَ مَسْلَكَ الْجُنَيْدِ مِنْ أَهْلِ التَّصَوُّفِ وَالْمَعْرِفَةِ كَانَ قَدْ اهْتَدَى وَنَجَى وَسَعَدَ. Whoever should travel the path laid down by Junaid from the people of Tasawwuf and direct knowledge, this one shall certainly find guidance and be saved, and certainly be safe. There also include such big Imams as the scholar Ibn al-Qayyim, who made discussion of this, with discussion of the people of Tasawwuf, which he has أقواله كثيرة في مدارج السالكين. He has many statements in his book Madarij al-Salikin. There is also Al-Dhahabi, Ibn Kathir, Al-Mufassir al-Muhaddith, the Ibn I'mad al-Din, Ismail ibn Kathir, the commentator, the hadith scholar, and the memorizer. Wal-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, the Hafiz Ahmad ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Wash-Shawkani, and even also Ash-Shawkani, who makes a reference, رسالته في التصوف في مجموع رسائله, in his letter regarding Tasawwuf, in his Collected Statements, volume 2, page 1043. وحجة الإسلام الإمام الغزالي. And then we also have the Proof of Islam, the Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, rahimahumullah ajma'in. May Allah have mercy upon all of them. الصوفية طائفة من أهل السنة لا يجوز تكفير. The Sufiya are a group from Muslim orthodoxy, and it is not permitted to make takfir upon them. عد العلماء والمؤخرون الصوفية الصحيحة طائفة من طوائف أهل السنة. The scholars and historians have numbered the authentic Sufiya as a group from the body of Muslim orthodoxy. كذلك مدح ابن بدران الدمشقي الحنبلي الصوفية المتقدمين، وذكر أن من المتأخرين من كان على قدمهم ومنهم من خلط كلامه بالفلسفة. انظر المواهب الربانية، المكتب الإسلامي، الصفحة 68 و100. And likewise, in our footnote, we'd like to say that the Imam Ibn Badran al-Dimashqi al-Hanbali praised the Sufiya of the past and mentioned that the latter day there are those among the Sufiya who follow the previous, and from among them are those whose words are mixed up with all type of philosophy. Please see his book Al-Mawahib al-Rabbaniya, which was printed by Al-Maktab al-Islami, page 168. قال الإمام عبد القادر البغدادي قال الإمام عبد القاهر البغدادي. The Imam عبد القاهر البغدادي has said في بيان أصناف أهل السنة والجماعة والصنف السادس منهم الزهاد والصوفية الذين أبصروا وأقصروا واختبروا فاعتبروا دينهم التوحيد ونفي تشبيه. In his book he had said, the Imam Abdul Qahir al-Baghdadi, in clarification of the different groups of Muslim orthodoxy, and the sixth group amongst them are those of abstention, the Sufiya, who they use their insight, They strive to lower their worldly desires. They seek the knowledge that has been handed down to them. They reflect and learn lessons and take admonition in their religion. And their religion is the Tawheed. And they negate whatever is likening to Allah to his creation. And this is from his book, Al-Farqu Bayn al-Firaq, page 189. وَكَذَلَكَ عَدَّهَا الزَّبِيدِ. And likewise, the same thing was mentioned by الزبيدي. كما أن كثير من كبار القداة والفاتحين كانوا من الصوفية ومنهم علب أرسلان السلجوقي الذي قتل 60,000 من الصليبيين في مذاكرد ونور الدين زنكي وصلاح الدين الأيوبي ومحمد الفاتح وسليمان القونوي الذي فتح نصف أوروبا والظاهر بيبرس الذي كسر المغول والأمير عبد القادر الجزائري وعمر المختار الذين قاوموا الاحتلال الأوروبي. And also, there are many of the senior leaders and victorious ones who were from amongst the Sufiya, such as Alap Arsalan, the Seljuk. And in a note, we'd like to say, وَكَانَ أَشْعَرِيًّا وَوَزِيرُهُ نِظَامُ الْمُلْكِ الَّذِي نَشْرَ مَدَارِسَ الْأَشَاعِرَةِ. He was an Ash'ari, and his minister, Nizam al-Mulk, assisted in the spread of the Ash'ari madrasas in different locations. And this same Alap Arsalan al-Saljuqi of the Seljuks killed 60,000 crusaders at a place called Malavakrd. There's also Nuruddin Zinki and Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, in which it was mentioned in him, يذكر المقريزي في الخطة أن أول من أدخل الزوايا الصوفية إلى مصر هو صلاح الدين الأيوبي وهو من تربي في مدارس الإمام عبد القادر الجيلاني ومدرسة الإمام الغزالي. It is mentioned by al-Maqrizi in his notes that the first one who brought the Sufi zawiyas to Egypt was Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi. And he's the one who raised these up and also renewed the structure around the madrasa of the Imam Abdul Qadir al-Jilani as well as the madrasa of the Imam al-Ghazali. We also have Muhammad al-Fatih and Sulaiman al-Qanuni, also known as Qawnawi, who conquered half of the European peninsula. There is also Al-Zahir al-Baybars, who broke the back of the Mongols in battle. There is the Algerian Mujahid Al-Amir Abdul Qadir al-Jazairi. You have the Libyan Mujahid Umar al-Mukhtar, and all of these resisted the European invasion and colonialism. ولا يوجد شك عند الباحثين والمؤخرين أن من أدخل الإسلام إلى أعماق أفريقية وأوروبا والهند والجزر الإندونيسية والآسيوية هم الصوفية بسبب دعوتهم وجهادهم. And there's no doubt present among researchers and historians that those who brought Islam to the far-reaching locations of the continent of Africa, the peninsula of Europe, the subcontinent of India, the islands of Indonesia, and far-flung locations in Asia were none other than the Sufiya because of their call and propagation and their jihad as well. إنكار شطحات الصوفية واجب. Understand that negating the shortcomings and the blameworthy aspects of the Sufiya is wajib. ولا يعني أن نسكت عن المنكرات التي تقع من بعض المنتسبين إلى التصوف. Understand that all of the forementioned does not mean that we're silent regarding the blameworthy actions which happen from some of those who attribute themselves to Sufiya, to the principle of Tasawwuf. فإن دين الله لا يحتمل محاملة ولا مداهنة. Because in the religion of Allah, there is no compromise, nor is there any compromising on the truth. فالإمام أحمد لم يكن يقبل كل ما يفعله الصوفية. And based upon this, the Imam Ahmad did not accept all of what was done by the Sufiya. بل لقد كان ينكر عليهم ما يعارض الشريعة. But instead, he used to rebuke them when they contradicted the revealed law. فكان ينكر السياحة في الأرض لغير قصد وينكر فهم بعضهم للتوكل. He also rebuked them moving around in the earth from place to place, traveling and holding gatherings in which there was screaming and shouting without intent. He also negated the understanding that some of them had of trusting in Allah. وينكر على من ترك العمل. And he negated whoever left righteous deeds. وقيل للإمام أحمد بن حنبل رضي الله عنه. It was said to Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, ما تقول في من جلس في بيته أو مسجده. What do you say about the one who only sits in his house or his masjid? وقال, and Imam Ahmad said, لا أعمل شيئا حتى يأتيني رزقي. And then he says, the individual said, what do you say about the one who only sits in his house or his masjid? And he says, I'm not going to do anything until my sustenance comes to me. فقال Imam Ahmad, but Imam Ahmad said, هذا رجل لم يسمع العلم أما سمع قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله جعل رزقي تحت ظل رمحي. This is a man who has not heard knowledge at all. Doesn't he know what was said? What was أما سمع, has he not heard the statement? سمع قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, has he not heard the statement of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم? Indeed, Allah جعل رزقي تحت ظل رمحي, has put my sustenance under the shade of my spear. وكان أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يتجرون في البر والبحر ويعملون في نخيلهم والقدوة بهم. And the companions of the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم used to engage in trade on land and sea. And they would carry out trade regarding the date palms or harvesting them and other similar things. وكان ينكر عليهم ترك الزواج, and he used to rebuke them for abandoning marriage. قال المروذي, يعني أبو بكر المروذي said, سمعت أبا عبد الله يقول ليس العزوزية من أمر الإسلام. He used to say, bachelorhood is not from the affair of Islam. لو ترك الناس النكاح لم يغزو. If people abandoned marriage, there would be no one going out for offensive jihad. ولم يحجوا. There would be no one going out for Hajj. ولم يكن كذا ولم يكن كذا. And there wouldn't be this and that and other things. وينكر حديثهم في الوسواس والخطرات التي تعارض الشرع. And Imam Ahmad used to rebuke their statements in whispers that they would say and ecstatic utterances and dangerous things that would contradict the revealed law. وينكر تقدير الشيء على القرآن والسنة الصحيحة. And he would rebuke them putting anything above the Quran and the Sunnah. وينكر أن يتخذ يوم مخصوص لعبادة. And he would rebuke them for taking a specific day out for a specific type of ibadah. وينكر أن يتخذ يوم مخصوص لعبادة مخصوصة من غير دليل. He would rebuke them for taking out a specific day for a specific act of worship without an evidence to establish it. وينكر أن يكثر الناس من زيارة قبور الصالحين. And he would rebuke وينكر أن يكثر الناس من زيارة قبور الصالحين. He would rebuke them for putting people upon excesses in visitation of the graves of the pious ones. And I would like to say in a footnote, اتفق الحنابلة على أنه لا يجوز الدفن في المساجد لأنها لم تبنى لذلك. Understand that the Hanbalis have agreed unanimously that it is not permitted to bury the deceased in the masjids because the masjids weren't built for that purpose. قال الشيخ الحنابلة في مصر قال الشيخ الحنابلة في الأزهر الشريف. It was said by the Sheikh of the Hanbalis in the Noble Azhar, بداية القرن العشرين, at the beginning of the last century, whose name was Sheikh Muhammad al-Dhahabi al-Basyuni. His name was the Sheikh Muhammad al-Dhahabi al-Basyuni, rahimahullah, in his book. in his book, الأقوال المرضية لنيل المطالب الآخروية, in which he remarked, وقد نال كتابه هذا جائزة وأوصى بتدريسه. And in this book received a prize for its rank. And he also received accolades for its writing. And he would teach this book as well. And he gave specific bequest that it be taught. He said in its pages, وحرم الدفن في المساجد لأنها لم تبنى لذلك. It is impermissible to bury the deceased in the masjids because they weren't built for this purpose. ولكن توسط بعض أئمة الحنابلة في مسألة بناء حجرة وقبة على قبور، وذهب المجد بن تيمية وابن عقيل وابن تميم والسامري إلى جواز ذلك في ملكه بشرط أن لا تتخذ مساجد. قال المرداوي في الإنصاف. But there is a middlemost opinion of some of the Imams of the Hanabila in this issue that allowed the building of a chamber or a dome over graves. And this was a position that was adopted by Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah, Abu al-Wafa' ibn Aqil, Ibn Tamim al-Hanbali, as well as As-Samuri. And they said it was permissible to do that on someone else's property, with the condition that no masjids are built on top of that area. قال المرداوي في الإنصاف. علاء الدين المرداوي said in his book Al-Insaf, وقال الصاحب المستوعب, it was mentioned by the author of Mustaw'ib, Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah, as well as Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Tamim, and Ibn Tamim, وغيرهم, and others besides. لا بأس بقبة وبيت وحظيرة في ملكه. There is no harm in there being a dome or a house or a built chamber on the property where the grave is over it. وقدمه في مجمع البحرين, and this was given precedence in the book مجمع البحرين. لكن اختار الأول, but the praised position is merely permissibility. وقال المجد, يعني مجد الدين ابن تيمية, but it's been said by مجد الدين ابن تيمية, يكره ذلك في الصحراء للتضييق والتشبيه بأبنية أهل الدنيا. But this is disliked to build this dome or house or chamber in the open desert, due to the taking up of land and the resemblance of the buildings of the people of the earthly life. وقال في المستوعب, and it's been also said by the author of المستوعب, يكره إن كان في مسبلة, and it's also disliked to build it in an area in which it's overlooking water, or that it's an area that's wetted frequently with water so that it becomes an attraction. وقال ابن مفلح نقلا عن ابن عقيل في الفصول, and Shamsuddin ibn Muflih narrated from Abu al-Wafa' ibn Aqil in his book Al-Fusul. وقال في الفصول, it was said in الفصول, القبة والحظيرة والتربة إن كان في ملكه فعل ما شاء. If the dome or the chamber or the built up area is on his property, he may do what he so wills. وإن كان في مسبلة كره. But if it's in an area which has a waterway that runs by it, or a walkway that runs by it, then this is disliked. لتضييق بلا فائدة, because this is taking up land without benefit. فالمسألة فقهية, and this is a fiqh mas'ala on this topic. And this is what the Sheikh had to say about it. Close quote. So understand then what Sheikh Mustafa Hamdu Alayan, he put this huge note from this kitab of the Sheikh of Hanabila in Egypt, of this last period. He put this in this note to show that this area is not one of kufr or shirk, whether there's a dome or not a dome. It's to do with dislike and resembling the people of the earthly life and the things that they do. So understand that the rebuke that Imam Ahmad had for them with creating these excesses where people are visiting the graves of the deceased righteous ones excessively, and then sometimes creating buildings or masajid on those sites, right? It's impermissible to bury the deceased, pious or otherwise, in the masajid, but also it's disliked to build up chambers and domes and things like this. If it's done, it's permitted, but some say it's disliked, right? But the mu'tamid is that it is permitted. And this is the reason why you'll find domes and other things such as this. This is permitted, although some say it's disliked. The Sheikh Mustafa Hamdu he goes on to say, وَيُنْكِرُ أَنْ يَكْثُرَ النَّاسِ مِنْ زِيَارَةِ قَبُورِ الصَّالِحِينَ. And so he would rebuke the people for calling to people to excess visiting of the graves of the pious ones. إذا أدت إلى مخالفات شرعية كما ذكر الشيخ عبد الرحمن وينهى عن الصلاة عندها. Whenever this led to things that contradicted the revealed law, just as was mentioned by my Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Shami, and he forbade from salah at such locations. Close quote. So we have the fatwa here from Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Shami, who was mentioning to Sheikh Mustafa Hamdu that it is, when this happens, it is disliked to do these things, and you may rebuke these people. And it's forbidden from praying in the graves, the Fard Salawat, as well as Nafil, because that's not the place, that's not what these places are built for. This is impermissible. This should not be done. And the dominant ruling in the madhab is that salawat made there are invalid. That is the mu'tamid position. So what we will do is we'll pause here, inshallah. And when we next come together, we will be looking forward to looking at the position of Taqi ibn Taymiyyah regarding the Sufiya and the rank that he attaches to them, the goodness that is attached to them, and how he perceives them, inshallah. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserves us, we look forward to hearing more. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk innahu ghafurur rahim rahimin wa la ilaha illa Allah.